In an age where the pace of life feels relentless and true fulfillment remains elusive for many, a growing number of thought leaders are redefining success, not through material gain, but through mindfulness and self-discovery. Welcome to the Enlightened Life podcast. I'm your host, Scott Allen. On today's episode, I sit down with Rudy Daniel, a visionary, entrepreneur, philosopher, and mindfulness advocate whose journey from the tech world to the realm of personal transformation is nothing short of extraordinary. Originally from Armenia, Daniel co-founded Affirmate, a groundbreaking mindfulness app designed to bring intentional living into everyday moments. His book, Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind, delves deep into the questions of identity, purpose, and the art of being present. Drawing from Eastern traditions like Buddhism and Taoism, as well as Western philosophy and cutting-edge science, Daniel has developed a unique approach to mindfulness, one that is both deeply spiritual and refreshingly practical. In this conversation, he unpacks the life-changing insights that propelled him toward a more conscious way of living and shares how anyone can integrate mindfulness into their daily routine. Is there more to life than the cycle of achievement and accumulation? Can a 90-second practice shift the way we experience the world? And how does technology fit into the ancient wisdom of presence? We explore these questions and more with a man who has dedicated his life to bridging the gap between innovation and inner peace. Join us as we step behind the mask and look beyond the mind with Rudy Daniel. Let's get started. Hi, Rudy. How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. How are you?
Great. So nice to have you here from literally across the world. So it's nice to have you here. You're in Tel Aviv, you said.
Yes.
Yeah. I know you were born in Armenia. How long have you been in Tel Aviv? Have you been there for a good portion of your life, or is this something you did later?
Yeah, for quite a good portion of my life.
Yeah. You said your mid-30s were a turning point in your journey toward mindfulness. What made you realize that you needed to change, something needed to happen for you?
Indeed. It wasn't something active that I pursued, but rather the mundane reality of life, which has become a real drag. Waking up every morning feeling like I've done most of what I wanted to do. Life became boring. I didn't see any new frontiers that I can explore, at least not for me. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in any given moment in anything. But generally speaking, having a career, having a family, relationships, exploring the globe, exploring places, ideas. So it seemed to me back then that there is nothing new for me, and so I felt that the rest of my life is going to be rather the same thing, and it was very discouraging and quite depressing. So I think that it happened on its own accord through these feelings and sensations that I had back then.
Yeah. And I would think too, coming from the technology and business background, you were very left-brained, I would imagine, to a certain degree. And to have that switch over to, the Eastern philosophies and mindfulness, that's quite a shift from one side to the other. Was there anything about what you did in technology that made you think this is the direction I need to go?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because actually, yes, it's not quite connected, but it did gave me a direction. There was one time during that period that I was working on a new idea, and within this new idea, there was the need to understand how we send images and videos using the cloud. So when I dove deep into the technology itself, I kind of realized that it's quite magical. So you need, in order to, well, it seemed quite obvious now that we're sitting in that far away, and we see each other streaming almost without any lagging or time difference. It seems quite obvious to us now, but behind the scene, what's going on is quite crazy. So it did propel me to think more deeply about the nature of reality itself, and how it's possible that we can come to agree that magical stuff seems mundane to us, like this exact technology that we are using now. And from there, I had a lot of thought processing about other things, and it did take me to those teachings that you referred to earlier, because I found out that my explorations have reached a limit in my thought, because I didn't have enough tools to unpack all of these questions. And so I turned to teachings that have been present for thousands of years, and I studied them, and I found that they're quite profound, and I've used the tools they offer and the teachings they offer to combine it with the modern life that we're living now, and using technology to come up with something that we in Affirmate call mindful living.
It's funny because in my book, the first line of the book is, I've always been exactly where I thought I was supposed to be, even if I didn't recognize it at the time. And I can see that also with you. You needed to go through the tech. You needed to have that background so that you could bring that into what it is that you do now and put an entirely different spin on it. You've created this app that people can use. And we're going to talk about that a little later in the show, but I think that's great. Very much like me, you were exactly where you needed to be to get the information and the knowledge and understanding to be able to do what you're doing now. So I think that's great. Do you think your Armenian heritage has had any influence on your success in your life and your spirituality?
Well, I think that, as you said, I was in the perfect place, and so is everyone else. And obviously, part of my heritage and part of my um, gene memory, if you like, is also connected to everything that I do. So I guess I have to attribute part of that to my heritage as well. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. So your book, Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind, suggests that many of us are trapped in our own thought patterns. What is a common mindset trap that people sometimes will fall into, and maybe some guidance on how they can break free from that?
That's a good question. And it depends really how deep you want to go, because there are things that are really obvious to regular people, let's say, and there are things that not very obvious. I think that the most basic thing that we are trapped in is that we think that life is stable, and thus we try to cling to it. And we cling to ideas, we cling to concepts, we cling to who we are or who we think we are. But in essence, if we look outside or even inside, but at first, at least, we look outside, we see that reality is very much transient. Everything keeps on changing. There is nothing stable in the universe. The only thing that is stable in the universe is the change itself. It's always changing, it's always moving. So when we cling to it, it's like we're trying to fight the stream in the river, and there is no need to do that. So the first thing anyone can do is appreciate the this understanding that everything is transient, and you should accept it. And when you accept it, things become much easier. And if you go a bit deeper, I think questions may arise, questions like, who am I? So this is a very a difficult concept to break, and the Eastern traditions, especially Hinduism, is very much vested in these kind of questions. So, for example, we tend to think that we are the body, or we are the brain, or some people will say that we are our persona. And eventually, you will notice if you investigate this question deeply that all of these things that you attribute to yourself is also transient. So, for example, at a certain point, you can be a child, but after that, you will not be a child, or you can be a husband, and after that, not a husband. You can be a doctor, and later you will not be, and even your name will fade away, or you can change your name. So all of these things that you attribute to yourself as you, as a stable entity, are nothing but transient attributes. And in Hinduism, there's a tradition called, well, it's not a tradition, it's rather a practice that is called neti neti, which is basically self inquiry by the method of saying what is not. So they start with questions like, am I the body? And you explore this question deeply. Am I my thoughts? Am I my emotion? And by way of reduction, you're going back and back and back to the source. So I think that this is the most potent trap that everyone has when they think of, of things like that, of mind games like that, mind concepts.
Yeah.
So when you shed away those ideas of who you are, or the idea that the world is stable or you are a stable entity, everything becomes much, much easier, much more fluid.
Well, and don't you think it helps the mindset in a way? Because, going back to what we talked about just a moment ago, if I know that everything I'm doing is leading me to something else, it's the foundation, the knowledge, and the training, if you will, for what comes next, then you're already expecting that this is just the stepping stone and that it's going to change. And that's okay, because you will be doing what you need to be doing, which will lead you to the next thing after that. So to understand change and the mindset, I think, is really healthy and important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you embrace change, life becomes much easier.
Absolutely. Do you think between the Eastern and Western philosophies, well, you studied both, so what do you think each offers that perhaps the other one lacks? I mean, is there something between the two that either one doesn't have necessarily?
I'm trying to draw a line between them because it's a general assumption to say Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy, because also in the East you have philosophies of the Hindus, and philosophy of the Buddhists, and philosophy of the Taoists, and philosophy of the Zen Buddhists, which differ. For example, the Hindus see reality or life as a drama, which the Godhead plays all of the roles of the entities, people, animals, whatever. In Zen Buddhism, they treat reality in a way of thinking about it as an organism rather than a God entity and people. And so in the same way, in the West, you have a lot of different schools. But I think that what differentiates most, I would say that it's the cultural context. The Eastern philosophies in general go way, way back, thousands of years. And so they have developed in their own way, and they're very, very subtle. And they're not necessarily built upon premises of a science or social behavior and stuff like that. And in the West, the most well, we can draw it even from religions, because we can say that in a way religions are also philosophies. So you can say that Christianity, for example, is a certain philosophy of life, and even the most recent ideas we have in the West, like idealism, or um, philosophies like Jung's. I think that they are more based on um, the new era that we are living in, and it's quite different, but in essence they speak of the same things. I think that the Western philosophies are more suitable for the Western mind, because if you begin with the premises of the Eastern philosophy, you must understand the cultural context, and it's very difficult for us in the West to understand. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, for example, which is like the holiest book for the Hindus, it will sound to you like a children's story if you don't have the understanding and the context of what they are talking about. So I think this is the main difference between them. But if you look at the core of both East and West, they point to the same thing. It's the same finger that points to the same moon.
I want to talk about your app, because I think that's going to fascinate people. Really, you co-founded this app. It's called Affirmate, and it's a mindfulness app, but it integrates 90-second practices. Why did you go with such a short format? And does that make a difference in general based on your experience?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the app, because it's a very important thing that me and my co-founder are doing. It's part of our mission to create a more mindful world, mindful society, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. So thank you. The idea is that in the Western world today, we are using technology. Some of the time we're using technology for good things, and some of the time, or even most of the time, we're using technology for bad things like doom scrolling, etc. But the point is that we are used and compelled to short span achievements and gratifications, and this is the way we process information. Everything is short, everything is fast. So we have designed a mindfulness app that in essence has short, interactive, and fun practices that you can do on a daily basis. And it's important that you do practices on a daily basis in order to form a habit, a long-lasting habit. For example, if I would meet a typical Western on the street and say, for your own well-being, you must practice meditation for 30 minutes a day, or even 15 minutes or 10 minutes a day. They will say, okay, that's a nice idea, but it's not for me. And it's very reasonable for them to reply in that way, because it's very difficult to sustain such a habit. So in our way, what we're trying to achieve, and it goes to what I said about the difference between Western and Eastern philosophies. For example, meditation is an Eastern philosophy, and mindfulness is a more general method, the backdrop of all methods. So we are trying to introduce or reintroduce mindfulness to the West in a way that people can interact with mindfulness in a short span of time, as you said, 90 seconds, sometimes less, but to do it daily. And this will give you the opportunity to compel yourself and prepare yourself to mindful living, which is basically seeing the magic in the world, the magic that already exists in everyday life. But when you're doing it on a daily basis, even if it's small, even if it's short-lived, with time it accumulates and gives you this glimpse into the profoundness and beauty of life that we know, that you know, that everyone who have touched upon these kind of things know. So this is the way of Affirmate, and we have short practices like the 90-second practice, which involved a tangible item. And we have a sound bath experience that you can compose your own sound healing space or meditation space. And we have daily intention cards that you can draw every day, and a lot of novel practices that we keep on developing and keep on releasing. And we've been on on the iOS store for the past 10, 11 months. And so far we have great feedback from people. And through your platform, also invite people to contact us, give us feedback. We're happy to talk, happy to understand what makes your day better, what we can improve, and really have an open conversation with people that use Affirmate.
And while we were chatting, I wanted to pull it up because I wanted people to see what it looks like on the App Store. I wasn't texting, I promise. I was just looking on the App Store. But I want to make sure we're giving, we're announcing the right one. And there's a couple of things that say Affirmate. I don't know if they're both yours or if one of them. So which one is yours? There's a sound bath one and there's a manifest reality.
Sound bath, the sound bath, yeah,
Sound
the
bath.
Affirmate sound bath. It's you can recognize it easily. It's a logo with a vibration inside.
And this, I'm going to put it up here. Hopefully you can see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there, right? Yeah. So you can look at it. You want to find the one with the A logo. It says Affirmate, Sound Bath, Mindfulness, and Affirmations. And I am going to download this when we get done. Tell me a little bit. So these are not necessarily just meditations where you're sitting in a state. They're practices. And you use the word practices, I believe, as well. You use the word practices. Yes. And so they stay in that time period, up to 90 seconds. For the lifetime of when you're using the app. They don't continue to get longer and longer as you go on longer with it.
No.
Really?
I mean, you can have a sound bath session for hours if you like, but in essence, we divide the app into two sections. One of the section is daily practices, and the other one is the deep dive experiences. It's like the sound bath, and we have specially curated tunes for work, for focus, stuff like that. But the daily practices are very short, and they don't get any longer. Yeah,
I love that. And what is the cost for this? Or I don't know if there's in-app purchases or there's a subscription, or how does it work when people download the app?
Yeah, so there is a free version of the app that you can use some of the features, and to unlock it fully, it's only $39 a year.
Oh, very reasonable. That's US, or is that US dollars, or how do you? Yeah. I think that's great. How did you put this together? I mean, I don't know if you're on the app. Do you talk? Is your voice there, or do you have people come in and create things for you?
No. So we actually create everything in house, and there is no talking. There is no. It's not like a classic guided meditation that you would imagine. It's more immersive experiences. And this is why it is also short, because we believe that if we can immerse someone into a mindfulness experience, into a meditative state for even for 90 seconds, it counts much more than if you would sit for 10 minutes and 9 minutes of those you would spend on, is it cold in here? Is it hot in here? My leg's itchy. What about the email that I forgot to send? So this is the premise, and it's nothing like you ever seen. So I invite you to download the app and see it for yourself as well.
And I just did. So when we get off of this call, I will. Now, people aren't going to be seeing this probably until May. We're recording this in March. People will see this in May, but we'll blow it out there too when the time comes. I'll do my blog on this, and I may reach out to you for more guidance, but we'll also do some other things for people to learn about this, because I think it's such a great thing. But here's something funny. And you mentioned this, a little earlier about, we can use technology for good things and some not so good things. And, look, I have a son at home. He's going to be 12 years old, and he doesn't believe me when I tell him you need to shut off the phone before you go to bed because of all the, the blue light and all of this other stuff. He thinks I'm just mean, but we know that it can be a source of stress and distraction. So how do we combat that with this? Do you recommend that people not do it before bed, or do you what is the time frame on this type sort of thing? And how do we make sure that the technology isn't interfering with what you're trying to accomplish?
I think it's all about education. If you're referring to your kid, I also have some kids of my own, and we encounter the same kind of things. So for me, it's all about education. It's telling my kids what are the benefits in using technology and what are the pitfalls, and let them choose for themselves. So this is my kind of way of educating. I'm not sure that this is the correct way for everyone, because today everyone has have phones, and it's very, very difficult to tell someone to put off their phone. It's like, as you said, that they feel that you are mean to them.
Right.
So I think, like all things, you have to have the correct balance. For example, I'm drinking this water right now, and everyone knows that water is the source of life, and it's great for you, and you should drink water. But if you drink too much water, it is poisonous. You can die from drinking too much water, and you can also drown in water. So everything has to have the right balance. So for example, we're having this podcast now, and we are here to voice a different kind of voice, a voice of calmness, of inner peace, of joy, of compassion. And this is a very good way to show how technology can help, because potentially we can reach millions of people by using this platform. But also it can do the negative effect, like doom scrolling. So I think that it's all about education. We should educate people more about what to use and how to use. And I think it's right about everything, not just about technology.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. What do you think? On that note, we're educating. What are some of the big misconceptions people have about mindfulness apps in general? And how does Affirmate challenge those assumptions potentially?
I think that usually people confuse mindfulness with meditation. And most of the apps right now are meditation apps, or not mindfulness apps. So meditation would be the Eastern way of sitting cross-legged, or not even cross-legged, but just sitting, closing your eyes and trying to resist the mind, or try to think of nothing, or all these different methods. And when people try to do that, they soon realize that it's unattainable, or almost unattainable, or will take years to develop. So people think that a mindfulness app is a meditation app, which is not. And the way we deliver our premise is that we're not about meditation. We're about mindfulness, which are short, engaging practices that you can do, that you can enjoy. It doesn't have to feel like a chore. It's not something that you have to do. It's something that you would want to do. And this is what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of what that, for people who are saying, okay, so what is that then? If it's not meditation, what is a type of a practice that might be included? What types of things would you be doing in the app?
So, for example, we have the 90-second practice, which is very, very simple. It takes only 90 seconds. So what you do is you choose a positive affirmation. We all know that positive affirmation is something that is good for us. It's positive self-talk. So let's say that you want to focus today on gratitude. So you choose an affirmation based on gratitude, and then the app guides you through a short explanation of how it's going to work. So basically, the app says, bring an item that is dear to you, that you love. It could be a ring, it could be a crystal, a necklace, whatever you carry with you, keep with you throughout the day. So let's say that it's a ring. Most of the time, it's a ring. So you take your ring, and after you choose your affirmation, you put it on the phone. It shows you where to put it, and it turns the words of the positive affirmation into an array of light and sound vibration through technology, and then it infuses them into the object. So when the practice itself happens, it's a very, very immersive experience with light and sound, and you can hear the affirmation, and it's a very beautiful experience. And when it's done, your item is now basically a reminder of your intention. So even if you forget after half an hour, because you're in traffic, or you got this email from someone, and you're all, already in the daily chaos, and you forgot about your intention, you take suddenly one look at your item because it's on your hand or it's in your pocket, and you remember, you say, oh, I had this intention today of gratitude. So this is a thing we call tangible connection. So this is what you can expect from mindfulness practices like we have on the app.
And you said this is on the Apple Store, the iOS App Store. Is it also on the Google side of things, the Android store?
No.
Not yet. Okay, that's good to know for people who are listening. Just want to make sure people know where they can get it. So for now, it's on the Apple Store. And if you have an iPhone, you are part of the lucky club. I think it's great. What would you say to someone who says, I've tried this stuff before. I just, I start out great. I do it for a week and then I do it, maybe another few days and then it's done. I just don't have I'm not able to form the habit, to kind of keep with this. So what would you say to someone? And, you know, I know for people that when I talk about people who, talk to people who are trying to meditate and I said, well, look, first of all, you don't need an hour. You don't even need to sit in some funky position that's going to take you another 30 minutes to get up off the floor. You could do a few minutes and just start slow, start small, and yes, your mind will wander. Nobody's perfect. You're going to be thinking, okay, oh geez, what am I having for dinner tonight? What do I have? Okay, acknowledge it and say, yes, there it is. Pull your mind back and go right back into it. What would you say in terms of this type of a thing? What should people expect? And it's okay, or is it okay, if they fall off the bandwagon, for a few days? How are they going to create a habit to do this?
Yeah, so this is basically our goal. Even our slogan in the app says, you are what you repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So you must repeat it to become it. It's the same idea as every other practice that you would do and you would master. You would have to repeat it. And this is why we have built the practices in such a way that it requires only 90 seconds a day. So if you don't have 90 seconds a day to invest in yourself, it's quite difficult to find any better solution. In the case of meditation, you're absolutely right. When we've done the research before we began working on this app, we encountered a lot of people that said the same exact point as you pointed out, that it's very difficult to maintain. It's very difficult to close your eyes and think of nothing, because the mind has a will of its own. And as I said before, we lack in the West the cultural context of meditation. And this is why it's very, very difficult, almost unattainable for us. And people develop a sort of a meditation fatigue after a week or after a month or something like that. Personally, I love meditation and I can do it for a very long period of time. But this came after years of practice, So the premise of Affirmate is totally different, and it is for everyone. So I would say you have 90 seconds a day for your well-being. This is something that everyone can do, and this is the idea behind the app.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, we all can find 90 seconds somewhere to do something for ourselves. In a span of 24 hours, I think we can find 90 seconds that we can use for ourselves. So you talk about intentional living quite a bit. What does that mean in a day-to-day sense?
Yeah. So intention is basically like a lighthouse for a ship in the ocean. Everyone has their own individual kind of mind and their own individual structure of how they see the good life, or where they want to be, or what they want to do. And I think that the best guidance that you can put up for yourself is the guidance of intention. So if you want to go somewhere, you can use a map. A map would be very useful for you. So this is the power of intention. If you do things with intention, they come out just better. Just for example, when you cook a meal for your friends or for your loved ones or even for yourself. So there are two ways of cooking that meal. You can do it like a robot and just cut everything, throw it into the pot, and hope for the best. Or you can do it with intention. You can do it with love. You can be present while you're doing it. And I can almost guarantee to you that you will get a lot of compliments from your friends who will say, "Wow, this is very good." And the only thing that was different that you've done it with intention. When you're doing things with intention, in other words, you're doing it in a very intense way of presence. You are there, you're doing it, and you're present. And this is very different from just doing it than doing it with intention.
How has this changed your life?
Wow. Well, from living a mundane kind of life that was a drag, I find a lot of beauty in everyday life. It could be just looking at trees, at clouds, at people, at animals. Treat every event that comes my way as something that it has a teaching value for me. And basically, I see life full of purpose. It's pregnant with purpose. It's purposeful. So it changed my life a lot, and this is why I think that mindful living and living with intention is something that everyone can cultivate and everyone could benefit from.
Do you want to talk about your book at all?
Sure.
Yeah, we mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but maybe just, how this fits into everything and where people can find it. I'm sure it's available, anywhere books are sold, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon and audio platforms. So the book Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind is it kind of summarizes the path I've been on since my childhood, throughout my adolescence and adulthood. Now almost 40 years old, living in the universe. I have quite an experience of living. Um, the idea basically of the book is very simple. It's not to create another belief system or introduce some new dogma or say do this and don't do that. It's a different kind of book. The idea is to shatter your own beliefs and concepts that you have by way of presenting questions, not by way of introducing new facts. So what I do is it begins as more like a story about myself, a background of who I was back in the day and how my life evolved. And then when I come in the book to my 30s, I begin to entertain the idea of the nature of reality and the concepts of the mind, same kind of things that we spoke in the beginning of the show. And I pose questions to the reader, and the reader has to contemplate on the questions. And in the end of the book, I present keys that I found during my own exploration. But as I state and say in the book, do not take my words as the ultimate truth or the absolute truth or even truth at all. What resonates, and what don't. And take it with a grain of salt and just entertain it for yourself. Do your own kind of self-inquiry and really dive deep into the questions that I think that are the most important questions that everyone can have in their life. Like, who are we? What is this place we call the universe? What is reality? If you don't have these kind of questions in mind, you're just living without exploring the most fundamental things in your existence. And I think that it's a big miss. And yeah, this is basically the idea of the book. And as I said, it's available on all platforms, Amazon, audio platforms, etc.
What's next? What's next for you? Anything new you're working on, or projects, books, or anything like that?
Currently, very, very much vested in Affirmate. We have a lot of new practices coming up, and we are striving to build a platform for novel mindfulness practices. And I think that it will take a rather big portion of my time and future. But in the more far future, I have ideas for some new books, and I don't know. As I said, the world is transient, reality is transient. So I'm really looking forward to see what's next for me.
So if you could leave listeners with one core message about mindfulness and living with purpose, what might that be?
Be a student. Keep exploring life. Don't try to think that you've understood it all, or don't try to think that you have realized the truth, even if you see a glimpse of it. Stay a student, be on the path, and life would be magical forever.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you want to share that we haven't touched upon?
No, I think we're good.
Good. Good. Well, I really want to thank you for being here with us. I appreciate that. And, as we wrap up this enlightening conversation with Rudy, one thing is clear, that mindfulness isn't just an abstract concept or a fleeting trend. It's a way of being, a practice that can reshape how we experience life at its core. Whether it's through a 90-second practice, a shift in perspective, or a deeper connection to ancient wisdom, the power to live with more intention and clarity is within reach for all of us. Rudy's journey from the fast-paced world of tech leadership to the thoughtful realms of philosophy and mindfulness remind us that success is not about what we accumulate, but about how present we are for the moments that truly matter. If today's conversation resonated with you, please consider exploring Affirmate on the Apple Store or diving into Rudy's book, Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind. Please don't forget to check out my website at www.mediumscottallen.com. I'd love to meet you and help you along your journey towards enlightenment. Book a reading, attend one of my live events, or grab your copy of my new book, In the Presence of Light, A Funeral Director's Journey from Mourning to Mediumship. Finally, I will be hosting a mystical journey at sea on the Carnival Celebration from December 7th through 14th, 2025. We're heading to the Eastern Caribbean, and I'll be sharing private readings and so much more. Head on over to my website for more information. Rudy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here. And to all of you, I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Please enjoy your day and go on living your best enlightened life. Thanks, everyone.